here in the middle of Stockholm at a quite famous place. This is where Greta Thunberg started the Fridays for Future movement. It's snowing in the middle of March. And we want to talk a little bit about green signage, green AV, sustainability. We found out in the past days that the Nordics is quite leading in this regards. So what are the main things about green signage and green AV?
Yeah, I mean, it all starts with the product itself. So it all starts with product design. Then obviously there you have an impact on materials used, but also on power consumptions and all these things. Production, logistics, and then we're getting into the operations of digital signage systems. And they're obviously turning on off screens, using sensors to dim brightness levels, and all these things play a role. And it all ends with recycling of the materials.
When we talk about products, LED, for example, there are various forms of LEDs, different pixel pitches. Some technologies are much more efficient, energy efficient than others. Then when we talk about screens, digital signage screens, some of the manufacturers starting now, to produce and manufacture and design them that it's easy to, recycle them later on. So you can separate each different component and really recycle it. And obviously, the longer you use some of the components, the better it is for the environment. It's not always the favorite of the industry, but obviously, from a sustainable perspective, that's good. So it's about hardware, it's about operational efficiency, and at the end of the day, it's also about, what kind of energy you're using. So green energy and green electricity, sustainable electricity, that plays a huge role.
Welcome back to, where are we? Zurich.
Right from Stockholm.
Stockholm to Zurich, yeah. No, green signage, as we mentioned already in our segment from Sweden, it's very, very relevant. And we talk with a lot of clients, especially end customers, and especially on C-level, they're really pushing the topic, Stefan, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing that really changed. It puts digital signage as a topic really onto the C-level agenda, because the chief executives start asking the questions: how can we get to carbon neutral footprint? How can we become more sustainable? And that's really a C-level agenda item. And even though we haven't seen that so much in the past in digital signage projects, but expects those questions to be asked much more often for future projects.
Yeah, and as we mentioned before, it's really not about just the components, but also you can use existing networks and try to make them greener and more efficient way of operating them, turning off the screens and LEDs at night and all these things, activating sensors. So there are many ways of using existing hardware and getting the stuff more sustainable. So it's nothing really new, but the awareness has changed. And to be honest, there's one great opportunity as C-level, as sustainability has C-level visibility. Digital signage becomes now also a part which is interesting for C-level. So for the first time, they're really C-level is really thinking about signage and has a relevance for them. So it becomes part of the relevant set. So we believe the whole issue is really positive.
Yes, and we just discussed about the way to omnichannel. Same thing, I think, holds true for the way to sustainability. It won't be a one-step thing. It will be many small steps, but you have to start thinking about those small steps. It's about really, for integrators, it's a lot about operations concepts. Does it solve all the sustainability questions? No, it probably doesn't. But it's an important factor in the whole calculation of being more sustainable. And that's the important thing. Start thinking, start taking action, because it's not going to be a huge leap and you're going to be carbon neutral in that way. And if you look at typical timeframes for large corporations like Adidas or H&M, they are talking about 5 to 10 year time horizons.
Yeah, but it's really, you will be surprised how positive people, are when you start mentioning the topic. And we are still working on it, and not the industry is working on it. And you will get much more data in the summer as we're currently, measuring different devices, what power consumption is, what average power consumption is. And there are many more information coming up and standardized, no new standards. So really working on this one with the whole industry. So please, look at this topic and start discussing it with your customers, because it will become very, very relevant in the near future. So this was our short update to regards green signage and green AV. And now we're moving on to the next segment.
Thank you very much to the pair of you, and we're coming up to the final parts of this fantastic edition of Rise Spotlight, all about digital signage. Now, before we move on to the networking rooms, I just wanted to take a moment to give a huge heartfelt thanks to absolutely everyone who was involved and spoke and shared all their brain wisdom with us today. Massively appreciated. On top of that, would also love to give a big shout out to our sponsors, AVI SPL, for making all of this happen. And I'd also like to remind you of the fact the next opportunity to get involved in the Rise Spotlight will be on the 1st and 2nd of June, when we will be doing our live ISE show in Barcelona. Yes, we're going to be there in person, and I cannot wait. As part of that main stage program, we're going to be hosting on the sofa sessions, keynote interviews, reporter roundtables, Startup Nation sessions, virtual networking rooms. Everything that you've been enjoying in these last few months will be there in the flesh. So whether you're visiting in person or taking part online, you can register right now with the link provided in that chat on your right-hand side. Oh no, wrong way, it'll be that way, right-hand side. There we go. But now let's talk about today's networking rooms. We have 2 wonderful sessions ready for you. You can find these, surprisingly, in the sessions area on the left-hand side of your screen. The first room was about market developments, trends, and outlook. And this is with Florian, who you've seen today many times, Peter Hansen of Avixa, and special guest John Sheehan of Mood Media. There, they're going to take a deeper discussion on key trends and industry sentiment that were kind of covered in the earlier session. So building on some of that wonderful foundation in digital signage we've already laid. Second room, well, that is all going to be about digital signage best practice, and that's with Richard Doherty and Michael Kellaway of our good friends AAVI SPL. They'll be sharing some more practical tips, I think is a good way of putting it, on creating content that wows you, that gets you excited, how you keep your digital signage offering refreshing. So make sure you check out one of those 2 rooms, but neither of those pique your fancy. We've got you covered as well. So if you go to the networking area, you'll see an option where you're able to be randomly matched with another participant for a 5-minute one-on-one meeting. So head there and have a chat with someone that you probably wouldn't have been able to in any situation anyway. So to sum it up, you have 3 things to do. Choose the room for you, ask a question, and the most important of all, have a little bit of fun. Okay, so we'll see you all over there in a few minutes, and have a wonderful rest of your day and keep on enjoying the Rise Spotlight event. See you soon.